Good evening, everybody, and welcome to OneValley Pittsburgh at the Roundhouse. I like a round of applause for our whole team, a round of applause for the entire Pittsburgh ecosystem that made this possible, a round of applause for all of you coming out, you know, in the waning days of COVID to what I imagine is the largest public event, probably I would imagine all of you have been to. So thank you all for joining us here at this just kind of unbelievable, one-of-a-kind facility that's been worked on for the past several years. And it really is a manifestation of kind of both the history of Pittsburgh as well as the vision that so many people have for kind of the innovation ecosystem that's emerging here. So it's incredibly excited for OneValley to be here. This has been 3 years in the making for us, so this is a huge moment. And we love, thank you. It's just amazing seeing, you know, all these friendly faces. It's amazing seeing our group of 7 finalist startups who applied. They pitched through the semifinals. Over 200 companies applied for the Pittsburgh Challenge. So you're going to see our top 7 finalists tonight, as well as hear some great conversations about today as well as the future of Hazelwood Green and some of the things that are happening around here. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm Alec Wright. I'm the Chief Product Officer of OneValley and have been part of the team focused on Pittsburgh now for a couple years. Again, it's just so exciting to be here. And OneValley is a global entrepreneurship and innovation platform. Our mission is to support founders in every corner of the world and help them grow their business. We've been around for about 7-8 years. We support founders through our innovation centers. Over 800 companies have come through our physical centers over the last 5 years. Those companies have raised over $1 billion. We now support companies online as well and have over 250,000 entrepreneurs from every corner of the world accessing Passport, our virtual innovation center, to make it easier for them to get the resources they need to succeed and grow. And so, you know, in the end of the day, OneValley is just all about supporting the entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem, and we're so excited to get to do that now in Pittsburgh. You know, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Nikhil. Oh, actually, one more ado. One quick ado, and Nikhil will speak a little bit more about this, but this facility and OneValley's launch here was made possible by an amazing group of partners. The Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation, the Heinz Endowment, certainly the Richard King Mellon Foundation, who's just been an amazing partner of ours to make this all happen. And it's those 3 organizations that created this building, this one-of-a-kind building you're sitting in here. And then a huge thanks to our friends at Ascender, who have just been amazing at helping us get into the ecosystem. Starting in Thrival years ago when we got invited out to Pittsburgh for the first time, all the way through here to today. But now, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Nikhil Sinha, CEO of OneValley.
Thank you, Alec, and welcome everyone. It's just a pleasure to be here with all of you in person for the opening of this absolutely iconic landmark building, which we hope will serve as one more anchor for the growth, not just of Hazelwood Green, but for the Pittsburgh entrepreneurial community as well. And welcome also to our first Pittsburgh Startup Challenge, where we will see 7 of the top Pittsburgh companies presenting from the 200 that applied to participate in this challenge. For many decades, Silicon Valley has been synonymous with innovation and entrepreneurship and the growth of startups. But over the last few years, we have seen the emergence and development of multiple centers for innovation and entrepreneurship in the US and around the world. And we believe that Pittsburgh is one of those centers. And we will see strong evidence of that when we see these 7 fantastic companies pitching their ideas and their startups to us later this evening. Pittsburgh is, and has been throughout history, one of the strongest innovation communities in the world. As the innovation landscape has changed, Pittsburgh has continuously risen to meet that challenge. And we are very, very excited to be part of this next chapter of Pittsburgh's innovation journey. The opening of this innovation center and the concurrent launch of our Pittsburgh Entrepreneurship Platform, which is our online platform that think of it as a virtual innovation center for the Pittsburgh community, are just two of many investments that we plan to make in the Pittsburgh community in the coming years. Specifically, as members of the Hazelwood Green community, we see a remarkable opportunity to create momentum around the development of what we believe is going to be one of the most exciting innovation hubs anywhere in the country. We're looking forward very shortly to start welcoming startups, students, small businesses, members of the community, lifelong learners, university faculty to attend our events, both online as well as in person here in the Hazelwood Green Roundhouse. This Roundhouse, since I think some of you have had a chance to look around, if you haven't, do so this evening or come back anytime you'd like to take a tour of the Roundhouse. This Roundhouse is one of the most unique buildings I've seen. In this one space, I think we have captured the history, the present, and the future of Pittsburgh. Past, present, and future at one time in this single building. The Roundhouse, of course, represents the industrial history of Pittsburgh, which is preserved in this magnificent exposed brick, these wooden original ceilings, that unbelievable industrial crane right behind you, and the original turntable, which used to turn around railroad engines. And if you go outside and look below that little space outside, you'll see the original turntable still maintained. The present is represented here as well. The center is filled with artwork, light fixtures, and furniture pieces from local artists commissioned through an incredible partnership with Monmade. And of course, the purpose of the center is to create the future of Pittsburgh by supporting the next generation of entrepreneurs and startups. And the building captures some of that with its modern glass, the detailed metals, and the state-of-art furnishings that is all over the center and helps to capture that vision and energy of the future. In addition to the Roundhouse, we've built and launched the Pittsburgh Entrepreneurship Platform. This is an exclusive online hub for startups in the Pittsburgh and greater Western Pennsylvania region. Developed in partnership with the Richard King Mellon Foundation and Ascender, the platform will extend the four walls of this innovation center, of this physical building, and create a virtual community of entrepreneurs in the larger Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania region, and connect them to each other, to local resources, as well as to our global resources and network. The platform is already up and running, and we've already have our first cohort of startups and mentors and investors that are on the platform. And very soon, we'll be sending out a calendar of events that will be taking place both online as well as in the center. I'd like to take this opportunity also to thank all of our partners across the Pittsburgh ecosystem who have made this possible. We've been working on this project for 3 years. We've been working on specifically the Roundhouse project for about two and a half years with Almono Partners. And it's unbelievable to see it all come to life with the support of everybody in the ecosystem. Last year was a scary year for us with the pandemic. We didn't know what was going to happen in terms of our ability to complete the building. But everybody, the developers, the architects, the owners of this building, and our team have worked very, very hard to bring us to this occasion. In particular, I'd like to thank the Almono partners, the Richard King Mellon Foundation, and you're going to hear from Sam Reiman very shortly, the Benedum Foundation, Pac Getty, I don't know if you're here, and the Heinz Endowment, Rob Stephanie, and Grant Oliphant, I think, is also here as well. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your confidence. Thank you for letting us into this beautiful building. I also like to thank Nadili Nunez and the folks at Ascender who've partnered with us on our online platform as well. We're looking very exciting to building that platform up as well. Of course, the designers of the building and who've done a lot of the design work, Ann Chen and the folks at GBBN, and Bill Crahy, the developer who and his team have worked tirelessly to make sure that everything came to light and came to reality in time. So thank you for all your efforts around this as well. I'd like to thank two of our special advisors who've been advising us on our Pittsburgh mission for several years. Evan Onusic, I think Evan is here somewhere, there you are, and Bobby Zapala, I think Bobby, you're also here, there you are. Thank you for your help and your advice and your support and making sure that, we try and make the right moves as we came into Pittsburgh. Finally, of course, I'd like to thank my own team who've worked remarkably well, not just for the last 3 years, but in particular the last 3 days, to get everything up and running. If you had come here, I think a few days ago, it was not looking the way that it is, and you guys know who you are. But thank you for all of the hard work you've done. The folks here on my team who are here with us in Pittsburgh, but also everyone back in Silicon Valley who's worked to make this moment such a great success. Our mission at OneValley is to support entrepreneurs, accelerate startups, and empower organizations across the globe that foster entrepreneurial and innovation communities. Through our innovation centers and our global online community of over 200,000 entrepreneurs and innovators, we are excited to connect Pittsburgh to that growing global entrepreneurial ecosystem and to the resources that we have available around the world. We hope to provide the startup and innovation community in Pittsburgh with all the resources they need to create, launch, build, and scale their businesses while staying rooted in the Pittsburgh community. So thank you all for joining us for this event. Thanks for supporting this initiative. Good luck to all of the startups pitching this evening, and I look forward to spending some time chatting with all of you after the event. And with that, I'd like to introduce Nehal Bhojak, OneValley's new Pittsburgh General Manager. We're delighted to have Nehal on board and leading our initiatives here in Pittsburgh. Welcome, Nehal.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikhil, for the wonderful words and the warm introduction. Good evening, everyone. I think I recognize so many faces, so I'm so excited about that. Well, I'd like to start really by thanking my OneValley team just for extending such a warm welcome to me and making me feel part of the team. Today's really day 3 or 4 that I've been here with the team, and I feel so completely part of the fabric of OneValley. So I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you and racking up some big wins. So thank you for that. I'll echo Alec as well as Nikhil and thank everybody for coming out tonight and making our launch such a success. I guess I should thank the Pittsburgh weather for cutting us some slack. And so thank you to that as well. Pittsburgh has been my adopted home for about 20 years, and I have been very, very lucky to have many opportunities to be part of the transformation that we see today. And the Pittsburgh today is definitely not the Pittsburgh I saw when I moved here 20 years ago and told myself, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be here too long. So, this has been really, really exciting for me to get yet another opportunity to work with OneValley. I'm grateful and excited that OneValley saw the potential in this city. And I'm going to get yet another opportunity to be part of the change. I don't think we are at our best Pittsburgh yet, and I hope to be part of the group that's going to continue doing that. Finally, I know both Alec and Nikhil thanked the foundations, but I'd like to extend my own thank you to both R.K. Mellon, Sam, as well as all the other foundations. As a longtime resident of the Pittsburgh region and its innovation ecosystem. I know the region wouldn't be what it is without the unwavering support of our foundations and their tremendous vision. So thank you to Sam and everybody else, all the other foundations, the Almono Group. And with that, I'm a woman of few words, except when I have to render an opinion on the startups, and I'm going to do that shortly. But with that, I'm going to have Sam join me and say a few words.
Wow, this is exciting. It is fantastic to see everybody here today. It's hard to imagine that we would find ourselves in this place even a few short years ago. And before this finished product was completed, we had a historic photographer come through and take a series of photographs to make sure that we would never lose those images and the history that was represented in this space, going back to the time when the Roundhouse was open in the 1800s. And I'm going to share them with you here, and I'm also going to be very brief, but I show you this picture simply to impress upon you that this was a hard project. And it cost a lot of money for us to get this to the current condition that it is in. But the reality is that over the course of the last several years, this project also could at times feel overwhelming. As one of the many partners that are involved in the Almono partnership, including our dear friend Pat Getty, who was here from the very beginning in 2002 from the Benedum Foundation. Pat, thanks for coming here tonight. It's great to see you as always. Grant Oliphant, my partner at the Heinz Endowments, who works on this daily, along with his colleague Rob Stephanie, who's also here today. Thank you both to Grant and Rob. But this was not an easy project, even with all the people that were involved. And at times, it felt like the weight of a 25-ton crane, to be candid. The one that's right behind you. And typical in Pittsburgh fashion, there were so many people that helped to make this possible. And I just want to be very direct in thanking them all. So Nikhil, Alec, Tara, Mark Moe, who was previously at OneValley, really cannot thank them enough. This is their building. Without their being the central tenant here, this project was not possible. The foundations could not have gone to their boards to make the case for the renovation of this space. So thank you to them, and I'll continue through, if the slides come back up. As I mentioned already, my colleagues at the Heinz Endowments, Rob Stephanie, Grant, and Andrew McElwain. Jen Giovanetti, Benedum Foundation, current director of the Benedum Foundation, but Pat is here representing the organization today. Bill Crahy, who you heard Nikhil mention, who has been managing expertly every element of this property. He'll remember less than a year ago when I was waking up to the news that this building was on fire. I drove down here and found myself here with Bill as we were looking at a case of arson and trying to understand what was the new thing happening here to try and destroy this building. And the fact that not only was Bill able to overcome that, but was able to look at every detail of this space and bring his expertise to it, and it truly wouldn't be possible without him. The same is true for the construction firm, PJ Dick, and Ann Chen, who's represented here and is a principal at GBBN Architects. The foundations were kind enough to retain Ann 3 separate times to design this building, and we finally made it work with OneValley coming on as the central tenant. Adam Kenny, who I don't know if he's here or not, from Monmade. One of the pieces of work that we did to make sure this truly was a Pittsburgh space was to incorporate products made by local Pittsburgh makers. So there are so many elements of that throughout this entire facility. When you go around the corner, you'll see the specialized wallpaper that includes the bus in the hole, Frank O'Hara's Catching a Primanti sandwich, among other favorites that you'll recognize. But from the lights to the desk, we have incredible artisan makers here who are entrepreneurs and have built wonderful businesses. And so Adam Kenny helped to support a lot of those efforts, along with his other colleagues from Monmade. Bobby Sapala from the Ascender board, along with his colleague Nadili. As Nikhil mentioned, it's important when you're coming into Pittsburgh for the first time to have that on-ramp and glide path. And Bobby has been a true collaborative partner on every entrepreneurial initiative ever started in this town, and to have him here to make sure that this project succeeded was critically important. I can't thank enough Tim Smith, who's represented here from Center of Life, and Sonia Tillman, who I don't know if she made it. Sonia is here too. And they have been supporters of this community, which includes this site, of course, from the very beginning, before any of us really even thought about the potential for these spaces. And the direct connection that this space is going to make to the community and allow for entrepreneurs and companies to be part of this story is truly remarkable. Scott Izzo, my predecessor, along with his colleagues Grant Oliphant and Pat Getty, was one of the key proponents of this site. And I couldn't possibly go through this presentation without mentioning his support. He had been with the foundation for close to 25 years, and it was essential for him to be part of this effort. Someone mentioned Evan Onusik. Evan traveled here from Austin just to be here. Again, someone who, without his initial introduction to OneValley almost 3 years ago, we wouldn't be here today. And then the follow-up more than a year after that, where we walked through this space together in this damp, dreary day, and I'm trying to make the case to the team at OneValley that you should probably invest in Pittsburgh and this is the right spot. And they said, okay, and so we said, okay, yeah, let's do it. But Evan, again, has been just a true champion for everything that happens in this city, and cannot thank you enough for everything that you did to make this possible. The city of Pittsburgh, this is a lot of permitting. It's not easy to get a building like this done in a historic structure. So Dan Gilman, Mayor Peduto, they really have been incredible in making this happen. Chuck Beard is the photographer who took every one of these pictures. And of course, my board of trustees, similar to the Heinz Endowment's board of trustees, and the commitments from both the Heinz family and the Mellon family to think about how can they provide capital to restore a facility like this. But it's important to note we weren't just interested in restoring a building. This is a sign. I don't typically include profanity in these types of presentations, but this was embedded in the Roundhouse space. And you could just think about, and there are people here who had family members that worked at the J&L site, and it's emblematic of the culture. But when you look around this room, not only did we reinvent a physical space, we're reinventing an entire culture of how the startup community operates in this city. You look at the diversity in this room, you look at the types of ideas that will be presented as part of this startup competition, and that truly is the magic of what we've created here in this physical space. And there's nothing more fitting in the middle of a startup competition than to show this piece of art that was on the wall that someone from the community put on the building here. And I can't thank the startups that are part of this competition today more for wanting to build their dream here in Hazelwood. We wish you all the success, and we look forward to seeing all of you here again soon. Thank you.
Thank you again, Sam, and it's just incredible to have had the support from the RK Mellon Foundation over the past couple years, and in fact just everyone in the ecosystem. We're so excited to be here. We're so excited that you're here, and as a result of that, we would love you all to work out of the Roundhouse. And so if you check out the back of your badge, there's a QR code. If you ever want to schedule a tour, check out the space. We're offering anyone who attended tonight massive discounts on coming in here. So if you're thinking about a hybrid comeback from work from home and starting to play around in the office, we would love to have a conversation with you and get the community really going. But without further ado, let's get to the pitches. We're ready to get going. Oh, one too far. I'd like to introduce our judges. We have 4 great judges here tonight. Chris Wynn, Nehal, who you just had the opportunity to meet, Juan Scarlett, who's the managing director of OneValley Ventures and who we're fortunate to have here in person, as well as David Brown from Impellant Ventures. And so we have 2 of our judges in-house here, 2 of them who are joining us virtually because we wanted to get both West Coast, East Coast, get kind of diversity of perspectives around the table. So let's just give each one of our judges 30 seconds to introduce himself. Juan, do you mind starting us off?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Juan Scarlett, Managing Director of OneValley Ventures, where we work with partners to implement venture investment strategies leveraging the OneValley ecosystem. Our first effort is a pre-seed and seed stage fund called OneValley Ventures Fund, and very much looking forward to being here more often and getting to meet more of the great founders and mentors, advisors, and investors from throughout the Pittsburgh ecosystem. Thanks for having us.
Nehal, I mean...
Everyone knows me.
That's all we needed. Now we'll go maybe to Chris, one of our virtual judges. Let's see if Zoom works. Oh, there we go. We can hear you, Chris. Oh.
Hey, so I'm Chris. I'm a general partner at Oyster Ventures, and I'm based here at originally, I moved here 8 years ago when Support Capital hired me, where I spent 4 years with them, responsible for monitoring their $15 billion portfolio, and also figure out how to make Sequoia run more efficiently. After Sequoia, I angel invested, was an investor in Value Ventures, in the Valley, and going DC. And then right before Oyster Ventures, I was a COO at a startup where I helped startups and funds raise capital by unlocking the power of their networks using AI. Nice to meet everybody.
Thanks, Chris. And do we have David?
Hey, how's everyone doing? This is David Brown. I'm the managing partner for Compelling Ventures. We are coming live to you guys from Rochester, New York, so one of Dr. Gruber's other up-and-coming cities. We are a transplant bid here from the Boston tech ecosystem, where I had a number of kind of operator investor roles, but here in Compelling, we're an early-stage pre-seed, seed-oriented investor with the idea that emerging hubs like Pittsburgh, Rochester, Buffalo, Cleveland really benefit not just by being in isolation, but by pairing up the resources and talent that we have with amazing technology and resources in the larger hubs. And so, great to be here with GSV and real thought partner and participation partner. So we're excited to be helping out tonight.
Thanks a lot. So those are our 4 exceptional judges for tonight that'll be scoring our companies. We're going to hear the 7 pitches while we're tallying up their scores. You're going to hear a great interview with Nikhil and Dr. Jonathan Gruber from MIT, who is his entire work is focused on these emerging startup ecosystems and innovation ecosystems. But let's get pitching. What we're dealing with here tonight, there's a lot on the line. $50,000 in cash prizes being given out to our top teams, $25,000 to first place, $15,000 to second, $10,000 to third. So, let's see some companies win some money today and go home and grow. So that's what we're really excited about. And all of our finalists are also going to have access to the OneValley Center to, build and grow their business. So we're really excited to work with all of you. But without any further ado, let's take a look at the companies.
Companies moving forward to the Pittsburgh Startup Challenge Grand Finals are
And if you're not amped after that music, I don't know what to tell you. What would a pitch event be without some dramatic music? So it's my pleasure to welcome our first presenting company to the stage, Allison Bonk, president of Codex Labs.
I'm Allison Bonk. Thanks for having me today. I'm joined today by my co-founder, Max Goldman. He's somewhere around here, but I swear he's here. We're really excited to be a part of this finalist competition, and thanks for having us. Do I have slides? Oh, perfect. So we're Codex Labs, and we're building a data platform for hard tech, specifically a data platform to help and enhance logging platforms to effectively and efficiently use data, helping companies lower their cloud bills and increase the efficiency of their engineers. Max and I met at Uber on their self-driving program, where we saw firsthand just how much data you need to build an autonomous system. We saw this as engineers, we saw this as tech leads, we were consumers of that data, and at times builders of this infrastructure. And one thing to note is that this is not a problem that's exclusive to autonomy companies. This is a problem that we see through most of hard tech and most of emerging technologies. And that's because when you're working with a product that maybe hasn't been to market yet and you're integrating new tech, Data is what enables your development. So us and many companies here, most of the companies you see today are implementing emerging tech like robotics, machine learning and AI, and even medical technologies. And they're utilizing this data-enabled development. So companies will collect and generate a ton of log data. They store it somewhere, and engineers will continuously use and reuse that data for a series of workflows. You use your log data to run simulations. You'll use it to train your machine learning models and even do things like labeling or maybe building maps. Organizations often struggle to manage the vast amount of data they need to keep their engineers moving. So what happens is engineers spend a ton of time and waste a ton of time trying to just find the data that they need and organize it. And organizations waste a lot of money. They pay for data that they never use, and they also pay to use data that isn't valuable. That's why Codex Labs is building technology that gets the right data to the right engineer or workflow. Our customers can store, index, filter, and inspect their log data and quickly attach it to all of the workflows they need. This is really critical to knowing what data you have and having the right tools and infrastructure to access, understand, and use that data is critical to move quickly as an engineering organization. It's also critical to lower your cloud bills. The reason this is so critical is because engineers use and access their data hundreds, if not thousands of times per day, whether it's running a simulation locally on your computer or having automated pipelines sent to labeling or testing before you land code. Some of the largest organizations using this data-enabled development spend millions of dollars a month using their data every month. And because of that, and actually the companies that are maybe not the largest users and some of our mid-sized users are not far behind them from a usage perspective, making this an $11 billion industry. So now I want to talk to you a little bit more about our product. Pretend my name's Allison, well, my name is Allison, but pretend I work for a company called Demo Robotics, and I'm working on improving our performance around bicyclists. I can use Codex Labs to see what log data we have. I can understand information about that log data so I can quickly figure out if it's important to me. And I can also see other things. For instance, a lot of logs are 2-3 hours long. Maybe as an engineer, I just care about something interesting like my bicyclists. I can go to events and see all the times that bicyclists exist in my data sets. And even more so, I can add that to a log set. So when I collaborate with the rest of my teammates, we can all use the same log set to train, validate, and understand our performance. There we go. So one of the really cool things about this is it allows me as an engineer to be more effective in my work, do the things that I actually care about, and it also allows my teammates and myself to work better. We stay organized, we can move quickly, we stop doing duplicative work. It's not just about engineering productivity though. As an organization, my organization can save money. Let's say as I care about these bicyclists, I need to send 1,000 hours of log data for labeling. What happens is I send those 1,000 hours to something like Scale AI. Turns out only 10% of that data had a bicyclist in it. So in return, I paid for 1,000 hours of labeling, and I get 100 hours of labeled data back. With Codex Labs, I can filter and inspect that data prior to sending it to Scale AI, send 100 hours of bicyclist data to Scale AI, and in return, get those same 100 hours labeled, paying 1/10 of the original cost. And that's something that we found in a lot of our early customer exploration. Their two most precious resources are their engineers' time. It's hard to find good engineers, and you want to make sure that they're working on the things that they are so good at, and money. We know that robotics, machine learning is very expensive to develop, emerging tech is expensive to develop, and their cloud infrastructure is costing a huge portion of their development budget. So we have an early design partner right now that's an autonomous robotic or an autonomous agricultural robotics company. And we also have a lot of interest and LOIs from companies in the computer vision world, autonomy, robotics, etc. All kind of agreeing with this premise that I need my engineers to be more effective, and I really, really need to reduce my cloud costs. So that's why Codex Labs, we're focused on saving you money and increasing your productivity. We're gonna be around for the rest of the night, so if you see us at our table, if you're an investor interested, or if you're a company that maybe is looking to have really capable data infrastructure as you scale, please come see us. We'd love to talk to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Allison. It's wonderful to learn about Codex Labs and the work that you're doing to democratize data and AI. We're ready for our second presenting company. It is my pleasure to welcome Stuart, CEO of ESTAT Actuation, to the stage.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stuart Diller, CEO of ESTAT Actuation, and we're making robots safer and less expensive. So mobile robotics are an $18 billion industry, but it should be 10 times bigger if it weren't for two fundamental problems: safety concerns when they need to operate around humans, and big hardware costs. And both of these come down to the actuator components, which are the components responsible for movement. Right now, they're just too heavy, slow, and way too expensive. To illustrate this, let's imagine that we all are a team of robotics engineers, and we're designing a robot to get packages from an autonomous driving truck that's driving around the neighborhood to the customer's doorstep. We start designing and identify that it needs to be pretty lightweight, so that if it runs into grandma on the sidewalk, it's not gonna hurt her. And it needs to be pretty affordable to give a fast ROI. But we start designing, we start speccing, and we realize that even just to pick up a bag or to walk down the sidewalk, you need surprisingly powerful motors and gearboxes, and you need lots of them. And even when you get the really high-end ones, they add so much bulk that now you need a much heavier duty structure to support the extra weight. And then you're hit with the crazy price tag. So the result is a robot that weighs as much as a football player and costs a small fortune to make. At ESTAT, we're solving this problem with our game-changing new technology called electroadhesive clutches. They work using thin composite films and static electricity, which translates to high-level performance improvements compared to conventional components, including being 3 times lighter and using 600 times less power. They're also more dynamic, much quieter to operate, and they generate almost no heat during operation, which is really important for applications like wearables or medical robotics. And we're implementing these alongside lightweight, smaller motors and springs to achieve high-level performance improvements on the whole robot scale. The global market for actuators is $50 billion and is pretty concentrated in big conventional industries like transportation and manufacturing. And we're targeting these more in a 5 to 10 year timescale. Our initial target market are these emerging robotics verticals like medical robotics, wearables, military robotics, and automated warehousing, because these are the customers that really have that hair on fire problem that we're able to solve, and they're a lot more open to implementing and adopting new kinds of hardware technology than the more conventional ones. And these markets combined are a $3 billion market for actuators today and growing very rapidly. Our target customers are companies like these who are building the next generation of mobile and innovative robots and need this innovative hardware to accomplish these new designs. We've achieved sales to 7 customers, and we're on track for over $200,000 in revenue this year. Our goal is to sell to 10 more companies and then narrow those down to 3 scaled customers with $1.5 million in orders by the end of next year. In terms of competition, our main competition is the conventional actuator companies who have really been struggling to innovate for these customers over the last 20 plus years. There are other startups and smaller companies that do have innovative solutions to these problems, but none of them achieve the kind of performance that we do, and we have 4 patents granted and more on the way to keep out the competition. Our team, we're a spin out from Carnegie Mellon University, where Kirby and I did our PhDs, and where Carmel is a faculty member. So combined, we have 25 plus years of PhD level robotics hardware experience. And along with Randy, we have experience leading 6 previous startups. We're very tied into the CMU entrepreneurship community, and we're also members of the ARM Institute and Pittsburgh Robotics Network. At the university, about $500K of money went into developing this in the research stage. And then as a company, we've received $350K in non-dilutive funding from the NSF and the Air Force. And we've also raised about $200K in investment so far from the Sports Center, from Alpha Lab Gear, and Innovation Works. And at the end of this month, we'll just be closing our pre-seed round. So how can you in the audience get involved and help us? The big thing is we're hiring. We're looking for the best engineering and the best business talent who really want to make a difference in these new robotics verticals. And we're also interested in finding customers who are really creatively minded. That's who we've gotten the most traction with, is customers who can look forward and see the huge impact that new technologies like this can make. And on that note, I'd like to wrap up by sharing a video that has some implementations of our technology and also kind of some sneak peeks of some new fun stuff that we've got coming out soon. So, starting off, this is our linear version of the clutch using those 2 thin films and an implementation on an exoskeleton that makes walking easier. Next, we have incorporating with materials to give real-time materials property changes, think Batman cape, and also a haptic glove that gives unprecedented force feedback while also being really flexible and lightweight. Our bread and butter product is the rotary clutch that is a platform technology and applies to all of our robotics customers. And a really interesting recent development is our ability to basically have a controllable bond that can be electrically activated and deactivated between surfaces. And so finally, maybe even applying that to some Spider-Man kind of applications. So stay tuned for more full video of some acrobatics. So thank you for your time. We're ESTAT.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and congratulations on the incredible momentum from ESTAT. We are now ready for our 3rd presenting company. It is my pleasure to welcome Gung, CEO of Civic Champs, to the stage.
$428 billion. 9 billion hours. Those are the numbers that represent American generosity every single year. And together, they support the $2 trillion nonprofit sector, which employs 10% of our workers, 3rd only behind retail and manufacturing. Yet the tools and technology that nonprofits get to use has largely been the same since the 1950s. 90% still rely on pen and paper to manage core processes like scheduling, volunteer tracking, and even donations. Try to envision a consumer-facing company like Starbucks or CVS using pen and paper to manage its customer loyalty program. These time-consuming inefficiencies matter, as they not only lead to long hours of manual data entry work, but also decrease the capacity of our nonprofits to deliver services to those in need. Fewer meals for the hungry, fewer homes for the homeless. Civic Champs solves all of this with our platform, where we leverage technology like geofencing to automate volunteer check-ins, decreasing manual clerical work by 85%. In addition, when volunteers show up, they can use us to easily check in for events. They can sign digital waivers and get automated reminders. One of the other things that we solve is we help convert volunteers to donors. Because despite the fact that volunteers are twice as likely to donate and donate 10 times more than non-volunteers, the number one reason that they don't is because they're never asked. Civic Champs makes that ask at the right time with the right message. By understanding volunteer behavior and feedback, we know when they are most inspired. And through A/B testing, we can understand with nuance what messaging resonates with different demographics. And in this example, you see the volunteer is being asked to donate $1 for every hour that they've been volunteering. In Pittsburgh, we actually volunteer 73 million hours every single year. So imagine if every one of us was inspired to match $1 per hour, that would generate $23,000 for each of the 3,000 nonprofits in our region. Now today, Civic Champs serves over 65 nonprofits across the nation, including large ones like United Way, Habitat for Humanity, Boys and Girls Club, and Mentor, plus dozens of smaller nonprofits as well. And one of the things that we take a lot of pride in is delivering a product that our customers love. And that's why we ask the question, how would you feel if you couldn't use Civic Champs anymore? Well, in March of 2020, 31% of our customers said that they would be very disappointed if they could no longer use Civic Champs. By February of this year, that number has actually grown to 65%, easily surpassing the 40% threshold that companies use to determine whether they've hit product market fit. Now, in the US, there's 1.6 million nonprofits. Of those, 436,000 rely on volunteers. If we use the average price our customers pay us of $228, that would generate a $1.2 billion opportunity. On the flip side, with 62.8 million volunteers, if we just charge the industry average processing amount of 5% on the average online donation of $148, that would generate an incremental $465 million of potential annual revenues for a total of $1.7 billion. And from there, we can go into corporate social responsibility, donor management, donation processing for a total addressable market of $11 billion. And so since launching in May 2019, we've 10x our revenues in 2020, grown to then double that over to COVID-19, and by 2023, we will hit $2.2 million in annual revenues. Perhaps the more exciting thing is that 94% of our customers pay us upfront in full for the entire year, giving us a 1-month payback period, which is an incredible cash flow advantage. And we have really great unit economics. With our customer lifetime value to customer acquisition cost ratio of 3.4 to 1, we have found a long-term sustainable business model. And of course, we have a fantastic team. This is my third startup company. My first two, Rent Jungle and Community Health, were sold relatively in 2014 and 17. And I'm also joined by Mike, Darcy, Michael, and Jayana, who combine a deep mix of technical expertise and experience working in and selling to the nonprofit sector. And we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for our fantastic advisors and institutional supporters. Folks like Myung Lee, who is the CEO of Volunteers for America Greater New York, Nazli Parvizi, who launched the country's very first volunteer center under Mayor Bloomberg. And of course, we've been blessed to have been able to participate in world-class accelerator programs like Techstars and Mass Challenge, and count the support of great organizations like the Gates Foundation, IDEO, and of course, Innovation Works. And so today, I challenge each of you to come join us and help us deliver the most intuitive and impactful volunteer engagement software for nonprofits and their champions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gung, and it's so exciting to see the work you're doing from nonprofits. We're about to announce in the next couple of weeks that we've actually acquired an organization called Philanthropy University, which is one of the largest networks and ecosystems of nonprofits in the world, because we want to extend the support that we provide to startups to nonprofits and civil society organizations as well. So, Gung, we're definitely going to have to talk to you about that. With that, it's my pleasure to welcome our next presenting company, Michael, the president of Heart.io. Please join us at the stage.
Hi, I'm Michael Leisure, president and co-founder of Heart.io. and we're pairing artificial intelligence with the electrocardiogram to enable smarter cardiac triage. So let's jump first right into the problem. Today, there is no one test for the determination of coronary artery disease. Today, there is no one test for the determination of coronary artery disease, which is the buildup of plaque within your heart vessels, which leads to acute events such as a heart attack. Oftentimes, it takes multiple blood draws, multiple stress tests, even multiple CT scans to come to a final, oftentimes inconclusive diagnosis, which leads to a lot of unnecessary testing for the patients, extra costs for the insurance payer, and inefficiencies for the healthcare network, all of which build up to an annual cost to the US healthcare system of about $170 billion. So how do we fix this? To us, the answer is simple. We pair artificial intelligence with the electrocardiogram, which is the first test in the cardiovascular diagnostics pathway to allow for better patient risk stratification at time of presentation into high risk, moderate risk, and low risk categories to build a number of efficiencies within the system, such as a reduction in that extraneous testing, faster diagnoses made, and better patient outcomes, all of which lead up to better margins for all players involved. So how does it work in practice? As the electrocardiogram comes out of the machine in a digital format, we take it and send it to the cloud via our secure API, where we pair it up with a database of electrocardiograms and known patient outcomes to return a report for clinician review in a manner that they're used to seeing, so it requires little to no training cost or time to implement. And as we launch, we're targeting a fee-for-service model of about $50 a read, which is in line with what we had spoken about earlier, that stress electrocardiogram stress testing you're familiar with today. So we set out to prove the value of our device, ECGIO, at the end of 2019, early 2020, in a validation study on about 1,600 patients, where we were able to measure the presence and severity of coronary artery disease with a sensitivity, which is the power to rule in disease in patients who have disease, of 93%, and a specificity, which is the power to rule out disease in patients who don't have disease, of about 96%. And just because we like comparing to that stress electrocardiogram, which is what the FDA considers the first step in determination of coronary artery disease, sensitivity of 62% and a specificity of 68%. And we're working on validating this further. We're getting ready to launch a study, which is similar to the study you see on the left of about 20 to 30,000 patients. We're finalizing a study in Poland, which is ECGIO versus fractional flow reserve, another invasive measure, which measures the impact of disease. And all of that's building up to our pivotal study to go through the FDA, which we're working on discussing and negotiating with them as we speak. So as we go to market, our key initial customer is the Integrated Delivery Network, who in the US function as both healthcare provider and insurance payer, because they're able to see cost benefits on both sides of the coin through greater efficiencies, lower testing costs, and better patient outcomes. And they also have tons of offerings, whether it be the emergency department, whether it be outpatient care, cardiology care, urgent care, even telehealth, anywhere an electrocardiogram is taken. In the US alone, there are over 330 million electrocardiograms taken on an annual basis. So to get there in terms of a timeline, we're working on wrapping up our high volume validation study, which is going to launch right into our pivotal study and our PMA effort. And as you can't see here, we have multiple identified potential exit opportunities before, during, and after commercialization. And to introduce yourselves to the team, you have myself, who's a former life sciences consultant at Accenture. I have family ties to the world of cardiology. We have Utgers, who's a bioengineering PhD working full-time for Heart.io, who has experience with Google and through his PhD in AI research. He lost a family member to a chest pain misdiagnosis, and that motivated him to start Heart.io. And we have Adam, who's also a bioengineering PhD working full-time for Heart.io with extensive experience in life science research. On the advisory side, we have John, who has multiple successful exits in the cardiovascular device space, who helps spearhead a number of our business development efforts. Dr. Sal Gutanov, who's an AI director at Apple and the top machine learning professor at Carnegie Mellon, who helps verify and validate that our AI methodologies are sound. And then in our wonderful clinical advisory board, we have 3 clinicians with a combined over 100 years of experience and over 1,000 relevant publications. And then recently, we've had a bit of traction. We've had one of our more recent abstracts accepted to the Euro Heart Journal, which is the most impactful journal in the world of cardiology. As I mentioned, we've been discussing with the FDA on our pivotal trial, and we've agreed mostly on the high-level details, just hammering out the final little nuts and bolts. We've finalized contract negotiations with an upcoming clinical partner to run that 25 to 30,000 patient study. and we are a featured presenter at the K-Imaging Conference in Korea for 2021. I'm Michael Leisure with Heart.io, and we're aiming to bring cardiovascular diagnostics into the future more quickly, more accurately, and at a fraction of the cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I think we all, have family members or know someone who we've lost as a result of kind of undiagnosed and untreated heart conditions. So it's amazing to see this innovation making its way to the market. We're now ready for our next presenter, and this is a special one. JJ, CEO of TalkMeUp, is actually going to be joining us virtually for this final presentation. And you can meet some of her colleagues. They have a stand down there after the pitch. But let's have our one virtual presenter join us on the stage.
I can see you in person very soon. I'm very happy to be here and present to you TalkMeUp, an AI-based software company focused on professional communication training. If you're running a business, you must have realized how important it is for your team to be able to communicate effectively, both internally with each other and externally with customers. Even though companies are spending billions of dollars on employee communication training every year, these traditional training methods are still very problematic. Conducted by human coaches, these training solutions are not only expensive, but also hard to standardize, hard to scale, and hard to measure. At TalkMeUp, our team has created a smart coaching system that you can equip your employees with. Using TalkMeUp, your employees can practice anywhere, anytime, by simply speaking to the camera, like what I'm doing now. They'll get instant and personalized feedback on their delivery and content. For your managers, TalkMeUp is also a very helpful assistant to help them gain measurable real-time insights into the team's development and performance. TalkMeUp system is highly customizable and adaptive to make sure every employee of yours is trained the most effective way to meet the standards you expect them to reach. TalkMeUp system has been proven very effective, both short-term and long-term, for employees to improve their communication skills. More importantly, we care about how these improved communication skills are translated into business performance, and that is about over 30% per KPI per month. On the competition landscape, thanks to our proprietary inventions, compared with other competitors out there, TalkMeUp is providing the most customizable and effective training solution at the lowest cost. As a matter of fact, a lot of these competitors, typically training providers or LMS providers, they are working with us as channel partners. We initially target the multi-billion corporate training market, with our initial focus on sales and customer success training solutions. In the US, we project a $3.3 billion addressable market. As of today, we have gained traction in the high-tech, financial service industries. And if we truly look at this fast-growing and huge market out there globally, the true potential for TalkMeUp to grow is endless. TalkMeUp adopts a B2B approach to serve our enterprise customers. We have both the SaaS and API products for our enterprise customers to use to train their typically sales and customer success teams on critical conversations. We also work with channel partners who are typically training companies or LMS companies through API integrations. As of today, we have over 10 large enterprise customers and partners, both in the US and in international markets. In Q2 this year, we reached over 700% business growth, which is very exciting for the team. And based on our current pipeline, we have over 150 active leads in it. So this year we project about 1 million ARR. TalkMeUp was incorporated in 2018. And ever since then, we have raised a little over 1 million seed round. We launched our 2.0 around Q4 last year and experienced significant growth ever since. We're very happy to announce that we're going to launch our 3.0, which is a more powerful SaaS product together with the browser extension, which will capture the employees' business performance live and provide them with instant feedback. That's going to happen in August. And in Q4 this year, we're looking to raise 3 million Series A. Right now, we have a couple VCs confirm their interest in participating and leading this round. Should you also be interested, please reach out to us. In the long run, as a funder myself, and together with our team, we do envision TalkMeUp to grow internationally, to be able to adapt and serve different industries in different countries. Thanks to our awesome team. Our team has been kicking butt since day one. Myself and our CTO, E, we have over 20 years combined work experience in SaaS product R&D and business development in global markets. Myself, Bear, and Daniel, we are serial entrepreneurs in EdTech industry. Shiru and E, they are AI experts who have been leading our AI iterations and development. Again, big thanks to our advisors and the Pittsburgh community that has been helping us grow since day one, ever since we were just an idea. Our team has made a lot of achievements since the early times. We have won multiple venture competitions. We have our patent granted, and our team has published multiple papers at top international conferences. And that concludes my presentation. I look forward to talking more with you after the event. We're Team TalkMeUp. We provide AI-powered learning for your human-powered doing. Have a great day.
We want to thank JJ for joining us virtually. We wish you could have been here tonight, but I guess it's always fun to make AV and production work extra hard and bring someone in virtually. We're now ready for our second to last presenting company. It's my pleasure to welcome Sana, the CEO of Rubitection, to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time today. I'm Dr. Sana Gaspard. I'm the CEO of Rubitection and the primary inventor of its technology. I have my doctorate in biomedical engineering from Carnegie Mellon University. Rubitection is a medical device company that's addressing a global healthcare problem known as bed sores by providing caregivers with a low-cost, early detection tool. My vision is to make our solution the global standard tool for skin health assessment, to improve access to care, and to save the lives of vulnerable patients, like Superman, or in this case, wealthy actor Christopher Reeves. He lived for 9 years paralyzed from his neck down, thanks to the best healthcare he could afford, until he developed a bed sore, which would lead to his death. Early detection could have saved his life. And he's not alone, because bed sores affect 2.3 million people every year, killing 60,000 of them needlessly. This is because if you can detect the condition early, you can prevent it from developing. But early detection is difficult. The early diagnostic test is manual and unreliable, affected by things like the lighting in the room or the color of the patient's skin, making people of color over 2 times at a higher risk of developing the most severe cases of the condition that can lead to sepsis, death, or amputation. While costing the US healthcare system $11 billion in 1 year alone, a cost that facilities are now responsible for paying if the condition develops within their facility. And this is not minor, because on average, one condition can cost $43,000, and one patient can have more than one at one time. In addition to the direct treatment cost, facilities are also penalized up to 3% of their total annual Medicare revenue. This can lead to millions of lost revenue every year, with the main at-risk population being the elderly, reaching 80 million by the year 2040. This is soon going to be an avalanche of cost and a huge healthcare problem for families. Even the experts agree an early detection tool would be priceless. We're addressing that need with the Rubitection assessment system. It's a low-risk medical device. It's a patented optical system that allows any user to detect this condition at its earliest stage by detecting the early signs of skin inflammation. When used in practice, the device is placed onto the skin to make a measurement. We shine light into the skin and measure the light that comes back. We then analyze those signals to provide risk analytics, care management, and telehealth when used in a home care setting, allowing any caregiver, whether they are a consumer like you or a healthcare professional, to have the data they need to save lives, save time, and save money, while allowing healthcare facilities to increase their Medicare revenue by shifting costs away from high-cost treatment options to low-cost early detection, as well as increasing detection on admission so they can get paid for it. In terms of where we are to date, we've raised $1 million in pre-seed funding. Most of that has been non-dilutive funding. We've used that funding to build a proof of concept prototype, as well as to complete an initial clinical testing on patients. Our results indicate that we can detect that early biomarker of skin redness and inflammation with 96% accuracy. And we can do that on white skin as well as Asian skin and black skin. Compared to our competition, we're more reliable, we're easier to use both by a healthcare professional or a consumer, we're diagnostic, and we're also lower in cost. This will allow us to dominate a $4.3 billion US market, which includes sales to hospitals, nursing homes, and home care agencies, where we will sell our solution using a razor blade business model. In this model, we bundle the software and the hardware together, and then we make additional recurring revenue from the disposable cover that supports sterility between patients and the reduction of infection. As you can imagine, this is even more important with COVID. In this model, here's how we make money. For every device we sell, we make $22,000 in annual recurring revenue. We anticipate that one hospital will need around 12 devices to use within their ICU departments, giving us a total revenue of $265,000. And with over 6,000 hospitals in the US, that gives us a total market opportunity of $1.6 billion. Within 6 years of launching the product on the market, we think we can capture around 6% of that market, giving us over $100 million in sales. And with the huge impact we can have on cost to healthcare systems and patient outcomes, facilities with minimal marketing have already began contacting us to either purchase the technology or to clinically collaborate. We'll be working with 2 facilities this year to do broader additional tests. To scale to the broader market, we'll be working with strategic sales and distribution partners, all of whom here we've actually reached out to, and they have provided letters of interest. And this is because they have solutions for treatment, as I said, but nothing for early detection. And this is where the market is headed, to reduce costs and improve outcomes. As this market grows, even companies not traditionally in this space, like Procter & Gamble, are trying to get into this market and recently evaluated us among 4 companies to be their next billion-dollar brand. And this is also a market where all of these large corporations grow through acquisition, right? So even in the last year, there have been several large acquisitions, including one of our main competitors, the Leaf Healthcare System, which was acquired early so that Smith & Nephew could position themselves in the early detection space. And a recent acquisition of tissue analytics by Nehal, which I believe is based in Pittsburgh. To get to market, we're currently focused on prototype development and pilot testing before moving on to product development and initial sales with our clinical partners, with a broader market launch in 2023 with the support of strategic sales and distribution partners. The team has domain expertise. As I mentioned, I'm the CEO and inventor of the technology. Dr. Hines develops our custom algorithms. He has his PhD in chemical engineering, and Michael Schilling supports prototype design and fabrication. We've surrounded ourselves with experts in the field, most notably Dr. Joyce Black, who's the current vice president of the National Pressure Injury Advisory Panel that sets the national and international guidelines for bedsore prevention, care, and management, as well as Margaret Halstad, who is the VP of Health Economics at Medline. In our conversations with her, she said, if our solution was available today, Medline would be acquiring us, because this is where the market is headed. As a team, we're dedicated to getting this solution to market. When we looked at the broader impact of our solution, we realized that bed sores were just the beginning. With the broader impact of the same technology to other healthcare conditions, like diabetic foot ulcers, surgical wound monitoring, or the management of chronic dermatological conditions like psoriasis or eczema, we can increase our market to over $34 billion positioning us one day to either IPO or to get acquired by one of these large wound care companies or dermatological companies. So I invite you today to join our revolution to reimagine skincare based on data-driven analytics. We are currently raising a $2 million financing. We have a lead investor secured and committed, and additional investors who are interested. Our recent traction includes making progress on our next prototype, engagement with additional clinical partners as far away as Ethiopia, who would like our solution today, as well as engagement with other clinical corporate partners such as CVS Health and Sampo, which is a large insurance company that owns nursing homes in Japan, who recently gave us a $25,000 grant, as well as partnering with CTIP, which is working with us to bring our solution to the pediatric market, because children are also at risk for this condition. And with that, I hope you can join us in doing well while doing good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sana. Amazing to see the continued progress at Rubitection over the past year. Now, last but not least, certainly, it's my pleasure to welcome our final presenting CEO to the stage. We will be welcoming Mark, the CEO of Bloomfield Robotics.
Hi, I'm Mark Santa, CEO of Bloomfield Robotics. See a lot of friends, familiar faces here. So this guy, his job is to inspect crops. He actually is a viticulturalist, and he is looking at vines. He's looking at everything on the vine. He's looking at grapes, leaves, tendrils, cordon. He's making judgments about everything he sees. Folks like him exist on every specialty crop farm in the world. The world's $2 trillion worth of specialty crops. You're using a human to walk among the, in this case, vines, but it might be an apple orchard, could be a cannabis grow. You name it, somebody's paid, ideally, technically skilled, to go and make an observation about the plant, and that person's functioning as a doctor and a coach. As a doctor, they're looking at the plant for something that might be wrong with the plant. They certainly care about the condition of an individual plant, but they're also looking at things that might destroy entire crops, disease, infestation, and even things like water stress and pests. But they're also looking at that plant as a coach, because they're repeatedly going into that orchard, that vineyard, that grow, and looking at the condition of the crops as they progress through the year. And if they are not reaching a certain threshold of performance, then a remedy is applied. There's water, there's nutrients are applied, etc. This is how crops are inspected. The problem with using humans to inspect anything is what? There aren't a lot of them. These are highly skilled people, highly trained to look at specific plants. The other problem is, well, they're people. If I gave the same x-ray, with all due respect, is anybody a radiologist here? That actually happened to me one time. There was a radiologist, what I'm about to say. If I gave the same x-ray to 5 radiologists, I will get 4 opinions. And their opinions will be different enough to make the data questionable. That's just the nature of using humans to make subjective judgments about things they see. The other problem is, because there are not many of them, I can't get coverage. A typical viticulturalist like this will walk among the vines, and they can inspect about 150 vines in a day. That's about 1/10 of an acre. Some of our customers have as much as 20,000 acres. Clearly, one person might only get maybe 0.5% of a vineyard. So, now that I give you that tutorial on crop inspection, and oh, by the way, sometimes people have tried to use drones. Drones is a huge $7 billion global market for inspecting crops, but they're inspecting the other crops, the row crops, the wheat, rice, corn. Our world is the $2 trillion worth of specialty crops. Think of everything you can buy in Whole Foods. Vegetables, fruits, ornamental flowers, and cannabis, and a bunch of other things as well. Those crops are generating anywhere between $4 to $50 to $100,000 or $400,000 an acre if you grow lavender. And if you're growing cannabis, it could be millions. So as you can guess, specialty crops require much more frequent, much more intensive inspection than row crops. That's our world. So what do? We do this with a camera, an AI developed at Carnegie Mellon. We're doing exactly what he did. We are literally inspecting every vine, everything on that vine, every grape, every leaf, every tendril. We are seeing it as that individual sees it if they were a foot away. We are making judgments about everything on that plant exactly as a viticulturalist would, as an agronomist would, or as a botanist would. So in this case, in the case of grapes, we're looking at grapes, individual grapes. We're literally counting the grapes. We're sizing the grapes. We're telling you what color it is. We're looking at the shape and size of the cluster. We're actually counting leaf density. We're seeing little yettling on the edge of the leaf that suggests there's water stress, plant by plant by plant. Not in an aggregate, but actually individual plants, because we're geolocating the plants, which means we're going back over that plant again and again and again. So we're starting to name vines. We're starting to name trees, and we're going to follow those trees throughout their life. But in the meantime, we're going to help that grower increase yield. Now, how does it work? Well, you put this camera on pretty much anything that moves. I have a hobby now of collecting the various ways our customers have used to move these cameras around. I particularly like this little guy right here. This, if you're in Bordeaux, France, which is where we are, we have 3 customers in Bordeaux, France. This is Chateau Palmer. Any Chateau Margaux drinkers in the audience? I am not. It's $1,200 a bottle, but they are a customer. These are very popular vehicles in France because of the narrowness of the vineyards. You can only fit something like that. You can't fit one of these in France. That's in California. This is in Prosser, Washington. That's another vineyard in France, Domaine de Lant, there in the bottom right, and another grape vineyard. This is actually a table grape vineyard in the San Joaquin Valley. And there's a little robot. That's a bad word in our company. We don't build robots, we sell a service. So you put this camera on anything that moves, drive in any way you want in no particular way, and that camera flashes. That's why it's called flash. It has a high intensity light, takes 5 frames a second, uses 2 lenses, so you're mimicking human vision. You have to mimic human vision because you want to see depth. You want to be able to size things. So it does that all day long, every day. Captures it on the device. Some of it's processed on the device. The rest is processed in the cloud. And then the result is a output that looks something like this. Now, this is more than you want to know about a vineyard, but effectively now, if I may, draw back from the picture. The lowest level of resolution on a farm right now is an acre. In other words, the most detailed vision I can get of a farm, say I'm using a drone plus people to inspect, is an acre. And only then I have a general knowledge of the condition of the crops within that acre. What does that mean? That means the treatment I give that acre is the same treatment I give across the farm. I can't give individual treatment to a stalk of corn. Probably wouldn't want to do that. Well, the same goes for apple orchards. The same goes for cannabis. The same goes for any specialty crop. Now, the lowest level of resolution is a tree. We tell our customers, you can manage to the bush. You literally can manage to the vine. You can literally treat that vine and give that vine its own treatment, its own whatever you want to do to get the absolute most out of that vine. This is the dream of agriculture for the last 40 years. There's something called precision agriculture. It's the dream, it's the knowledge that every plant is different and the soil on which that individual plant is different enough that if I could give that plant unique treatment, I could maximize the productivity of that one plant. Problem is I don't know the condition of the plants until now. So we started off 2019 with a grant of $700,000 from the Department of Energy. Why them? Well, they have a program to fund the sorghum. So we worked with geneticists at Clemson. That was great. Got us 700 grand. We used that to get rolling. We then added another 250 grand from various wine organizations in 2020. So these are some of the premier wine organizations in the United States. About 250 or so that added to our kitty. We also had about a dozen vineyards that we piloted, mostly paid in 2020. And then we hit 2021 pretty hard. So we are right now, as of today, I think we've generated bookings of about 300,000, maybe a little bit north of that in terms of bookings. We probably will finish the year at about 450 to 500K in bookings, and we'll have an ARR of about I would say probably on the order of 600, 650K by the end of the year. You'll note here the customer list is pretty impressive in my opinion. We have some of the premier vineyards in the world. Wente is the largest and oldest estate vineyard in the United States. That's an almost $800 million operation. I mentioned Chateau Palmer, one of the premier vintners in the world. Domaine de Lan, similarly one of the premier vineyards in France. We are in 4 states. We also have a most recently added a vineyard in the Bolzano region of northern Italy, which is pretty cool. We'll be adding a second vineyard, a second and a third vineyard in Italy. We're adding one in Canada. We do table and wine grapes, but we also do other crops, a phrase I never thought I'd use before in my life. We are crop agnostic. So we look at all kinds of crops. So we have added a blueberry grow in Peru. I say this with all, I see some CMU folks here. This was spun out of Carnegie Mellon. Only a Carnegie Mellon startup could claim a blueberry grow in Peru, Chateau Palmer in France, and NASA as customers. So we actually do have NASA as a customer. We got a pretty large grant. We're taking that camera I showed you. Believe it or not, there's crops in space. There actually is a greenhouse about the size, about this big in the ISS. So we won a grant from NASA to build a smaller version IoT device because there's no Amazon cloud, unfortunately, accessible from the space station. So we're building actually with NASA's funding a version of the camera that's going into the ISS in 2 years. We're going to be monitoring crops in space. So if I win, I'm going to use some of our winnings to buy Matt Damon t-shirts for the whole team. And the team is impressive. I am fortunate. I've been fortunate. I'm a serial entrepreneur here in Pittsburgh, and this is my 3rd startup coming out of Carnegie Mellon. I'm also an adjunct professor at CMU as well. I've had the fortune 2 years ago of meeting Dr. George Cantor, who's got almost 2 decades of experience building all kinds of fancy robots in ag all over the world. Tim was one of his grad students. They came up with the idea of doing, their experience actually was interesting. They had built all kinds of ag robots, and what they discovered is farmers don't want to buy robots. Not yet. Not yet. Can't really afford them, and they're still a little fragile. So they said, but we can take robotic technology, specifically the eyes and brains, if you will, the perception piece, carve that out, and sell that as a service, because crop inspection is essential for particularly specialty crops. Thus, the idea was born. I showed up 2 years ago looking for something to do, and I met these guys. I fell in love with this 5 minutes in. It's very similar to my last company. I'd worked with Jason. Jason is head of products. Jason actually had a similar role at Uber ATG before we were able to convince him to join the team. Here, Ben did business development for me in a previous AI company where he sold AI to cities all over the world. And then we have another group of techies involved. I'm proud to say, most recently, we were accepted in about 3 months ago into something called Thrive SVG, based in Silicon Valley and Los Angeles. It is the world premier accelerator for ag tech. 800 applicants, they accepted 12. We were one of the companies that matriculated through, and that was great. And then at the end of it, they had an event where they give an award for the most innovative of that 12, and we won. So that was like, we don't win stuff, that's wow. We won that award, so that's a big deal. We've got a queue of customers that's at least a half a dozen very, very large players. We've raised $1 million. We set out to raise $1 million 6 months ago. We've closed 1.1 million. And so, for anybody's interested, we've raised the cap to the top of the round to 1.5. So there's another 400K in there. We're going to add. We're going to close, hard close. My CFO's listening. Hard close on July 25th. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you to all of our presenting companies. If we get one final round of applause for all of our presenters today. Now, we are tallying up the judge scores, And while we're doing that, we'll be back on stage in about 15, 20 minutes to present our awards and all of the cash prizes. Please give JJ our congratulations. Our final winner of $45,000 is Bloomfield Robotics. This is the first time I've ever gotten to see a big check, so I'm really, really excited about that. But, congratulations. Thank you much. And time to go get that martini. Special thanks again to all of our presenting companies. We wish we could give cash prizes to every single one of them. There are also 16 amazing semifinalists, none who didn't make it to the grand final. And you'll get to learn more about their companies downstage. You can go online to our platform and look at the semifinals to learn more about those companies as well. So it's really been an unbelievable group of founders here. And let's just do one final round of applause for every single one of our presenting companies.